Thank you very much indeed. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the wonderful Mughal tent. Still quite a few people here, although it's the end of term now. My favourite venue at the JLF. My name is Edward Dickinson for Amber Arts, and it's my honour to be with you today at this last session of ZJLF 2018 in this place. It's my great pleasure to introduce the award-winning Tripti Pandey, a very well-known and very well-loved figure in this city of Jaipur. In fact, she's one of the many sparkling local stars in this city. I can see all her friends are in the front rows, which is really nice, supporting her. But for those of you who don't know her, just let me tell you a little bit about Tripti before she reads from her book. She started her career in tourism at the Department of Tourism, Government of Rajasthan, and there she was responsible for devising the Elephant Festival, which became very, very popular indeed. Since then, she branched out independently and has made a great impact on tourism locally and internationally. And she doesn't want me to say this, but sorry, Tripti, she's best known actually to many people for her publication guide, Jaipur Vision. And I remember this slim volume when I first came to Jaipur many, many years ago, because it was the only place you could find a really good map of the city of Jaipur. So it was really handy. And of course, we had no Google Maps then. And I thought it'd be fun just to estimate the impact of this little publication. And I've worked out that Tripti has published about 2 million copies of this publication. So kudos to you, Tripti. But Tripti's not just a practical person. She has serious academic credentials as well and academic achievements. She had obtained a master's in tourism and then went on to Austria to study tourism management. And she later became, interestingly, through this Austrian connection, the first Indian ever to receive an honor from the Austrian government. And she got the gold medal for merit from the President of Austria. She's not wearing it today because she only brings it out on once or twice a year. She couldn't be persuaded to wear it. Anyway, and that was for fostering good relations between Austria and India based on tourism culture. She's published some really important books on different aspects of Rajasthani culture and devised several festivals and exhibitions. Today, of course, we're talking about her new book, recently launched, entitled India's Elephants, A Cultural Legacy. And to begin with, Tripti is going to take us into the world of the elephant by reading from her book. Over to you, Tripti.
Thanks a lot, Edward, for all those words. I think in excess, but thanks a lot. And thank you, Jaipur, for being here. I can see many friends of mine. Obviously, you're not very tired of listening to me so many times. I had very interesting question this morning, right in the other tent here. And the lady asked me, but what are you doing with the elephants? And I said, come here, I'll tell you what am I doing with the elephants. And my whole idea was that you ride an elephant in Jaipur. You have many, many ideas about the exotic ride or seeing the elephant. But I wanted you to discover the cultural nuances and significance of elephant, because elephant is the most celebrated animal in Indian heritage right from the Indus Valley days till now. I mean, no other animal has enjoyed this much of creativity as the elephant has. So when I was researching, I came across a very interesting quote from Professor Clement Distel, an ecological economist. Now, there are very many terms that come with the ecology, culture, but there was somebody called ecological economist, and he wrote, today the conservation of the Asian elephant depends on its use for tourism and its non-use economic values, which reflect human empathy with it and which are reinforced in India by social and cultural values. And he quoted from Elephants and Polity as exemplified by Kautilya's Arthashastra. Now that made me get into the ancient history as well, but my fascination with elephants is from my childhood. And I want to read from Mounting the Elephant, a Cultural Ride, and I want you to come along with me on this ride. My earliest memory of riding an elephant or helping others rejoice in an elephant ride takes me back to the early days of my childhood. We used to delight in a game called Hathi Ghoda Palki Jai Kanhaiya Lal Ki. I do not know how many Indians here can recall their childhood. The game literally translates, probably not, it's really, really interesting. The game literally translates as elephant, horse, palanquin. Victory is with Lord Krishna. Two older children would play the roles of the elephant, the horse, and the palanquin, seating the small child as a baby Krishna. The older children lowered themselves in a squatting position, first holding one arm with the other hand, and then holding the other arm of the other person and forming the elephant seat. And that would become the elephant, the palanquin. The small child was then seated on makeshift palanquin and to be mounted on the elephant. When the two children rose up and walked around, they were playing the role of the elephant and then pranced around to perform the role of a horse. The group of kids would walk around in a procession chanting, Hathi Ghoda Palki, Jai Kanhaiya Lal Ki, Hathi Ghoda Palki, Jai Kanhaiya Lal Ki. Children would line up for this joyride. I learned at a young age that owning an elephant was a matter of prestige. My mother used to tell us about a plain-looking sister-in-law of my father's, whom we call Giamma, who despite her ordinary visage, came from a most extraordinary home, as her father in Kannauj owned an elephant. This was indeed our source of wonder and delight, that there was some family in our nearby situation who owned an elephant. In Jaipur, I grew up seeing elephants meandering on the roads, on their way to the Amer Fort, or attired in finery leading ceremonial processions. I became aware of how much elephants meant to the royals of Rajasthan. Among several fascinating stories was the one about the Maharajah of Alwar, who was the first Indian student at the Eton of East, Ajmer's Mayo College. He arrived with the pomp and ceremony, and with the retinue included 500 elephants, 500 servants, 600 horses, and 12 elephants. Imagine a student arriving like that. He came to school on an elephant every day. For a king, an elephant was a symbol of power and pageantry, but for a young princess, it was a fairy tale romance. As Jaipur's legendary Rajmata Gayatri Devi reminisces in her biography, A Princess Remembers, when I close my eyes, I recall my happiest days were as a child in Coach Bihar. Those were the days of innocence, when I read comics like Tiger, Tim and Puck. When I would go shooting, I would plead with the Mahout to let me sit on the neck of the elephant there. I used to lie down, my head between the elephant's ears. At dusk, I would come home riding on my elephant. Little did that princess realize, for her last ride, when her mortal remains were moved in a procession, there was a full elephant procession, but this time the elephants wore color of mourning and they wore all white attire instead of a ceremonial attire.
Well, you've painted a lovely panorama of the role of the elephant in life. I read that the gestation period for an elephant is nearly 2 years. 2 years for an elephant baby. This elephant book took 5 years. And you worked on it and traveled all across India. Can you tell us how easy or difficult it was during those 5 years to put together this work?
Well, my whole idea was that I thought I knew it all, because I was born and brought up in Jaipur. I visited the Mohalla of Mahouts. There was a colony of Mahouts. First, I wrote on their colony that they were raising the elephant right within their homes, and an elephant's arrival meant a huge celebration. So I thought I knew it all because I had done the elephant festival, etc., etc. But when I went on researching on Indian whole ethos, it took me a long time to travel across India. I went to Assam, I went to South India, I went to Bihar, Sonpur Mela, then I went to Sikkim and Kalimpong, where I saw the monasteries and the Buddhist stories illustrated in the monasteries. So it was very difficult, not easy. And a coffee table book is all about passion. In India, we say for money, paisa. It's not about paisa. It's all about passion. And I needed help from all corners. So I connected with the people who had some connect with the elephants. So I went to Fevicol. Their logo is a pair of elephants. And I said to them, look here, you deal with the glues, and I'm glued to culture. And so rest was history, and they came for a full support. Then I went to my friend Gajendra Singh. His name is Gajendra Singh, sitting right here, of Indo-Asia. And I said, please make all my local travel arrangements because I can't afford to do that. So it was not easy. It was so much material because I went into textiles, I went into crafts, I went into mythology, I went into history. I mean, it became so much information on my side that I had to also get a designer's book that it should feel as elegant as the animal himself is. So that took me 5 years. It was a jumbo-size exercise.
That's a really clever answer, getting the elephant joke in again. Well done, Tripti. Now, what an incredible journey. I mean, you've been to many parts of India, which most people haven't been to in one lifetime. But can you give us a little insight into a really unforgettable discovery that you had during this huge trip making this book?
Two.
One
okay. Was, I was in ICC, India International Center, and because Assam is a partner state for literature festival here, I ran into Mr. Bej Barwa, and he says, what are you doing these days? And I said, I'm working on elephants. And he says, have you known anything about this folk song and the folklore, which is Hashtir Kanya? It's about the longing of a girl from the Mahaut family, because those were not the days with the mobile phones and connectivity. When a Mahaut went into jungle, it was very unsure whether he would return or not return. And that longing was described and written in this whole folk song, Hashtir Kanya, which I discovered in Manas, and I talked to the Assamese people, one. And second was in Bihar, they had, I went to Sonpur Ka Mela, and I saw a Mahaut. And Mahaut was with a baby elephant, and I asked him the obvious question, do you look after your elephant well enough? You treat him well? This is a major concern. And he says, what are you talking? This baby elephant is like my daughter. I said, how? He said, just wait, I'll show you. And he says, he falls down on the ground and he says, Haidaya, imitating that he was in danger and dying. And the baby elephant went berserk. And there was sound and there was noise and her trunk going in all directions trying to lift him up. And when she lifted him up, and that whole idea of getting the trunk around his neck, that moment was, it is etched in my memory forever because it was such an emotional moment.
You paint a wonderful picture of that adventure that you had. And in the book, there are also hundreds of beautiful images, beautiful photographs. Can you tell us something about how you collected all of those? I mean, did you take them all yourself, or what is the origin of the images in the book?
I captured the moment, so quite a few pictures, including the cover picture, are all my illustrations over a period of time that I shot. And then, interestingly, the archival material is not very easy to get. Unfortunately, for Commonwealth and British Library and Victoria and Albert Museum, you want to get one image, painting from India, getting a digital image, you pay more money for one image than your book sells for. Then how does one handle it? You know, it's very, very difficult. But there was an Englishman, Bill Pitt, who came to meet me when I was in London last year, and he gave me so many images from the British Darbar, 1903, 1911, how much he's collected, and with full freedom to use as I could use. So there were many sources. I could get some images from V&A in whichever way I could get from them, but most, the photographs are all from me. Mehrangarh Fort Trust, Shriji Mewar, Diya Kumari, Jaipur, they all supported me in a big way, extending all the images of the paintings and not charging a penny. So thanks to Rajasthan and former royal families.
That's really lovely to hear. I mean, we're getting a very strong sense of your passion for the elephant, and you've got a great deal of expertise. Perhaps you can shed a little bit of your own personal light on why you think India loves the elephant so much, which it does.
Well, I think it's a revered animal, you know, because there is one story of Lord Ganesh, fine, because whenever you say which god you recognize, and they'll always say that elephant face god Ganesh. But there is so much mythology. There is mythology of the ocean churning. When Indra got the elephant as his mount, sage Narad told him as to how you get the elephant, but you should know how to keep the elephant. There are strict rules and regulations of managing the elephants. So it's not about getting the elephant, it's also about managing. So that is the whole question even now. So I would say in India you revere it because of his wisdom, his significance in mythology. He's being illustrated in so many art forms because it's the most cherished form of, as a creator's form. You would not see tigers in so many places as you would see. But wholly because, firstly, it was mythology, and secondly, it was of course, the utility, the army, the Chaturanga Sena, that they had the four tier of the army, the ancient army and the medieval period army. So obviously he was the most, and then the celebrations, the ceremonial occasions. So he was the most cherished animal, and that is the reason that there was a need to, there was mythology, there was reverence, there was utility, there was ceremonial grandeur. So in all respect, Indians really loved, and also lifespan as long as of a mankind, because an elephant lives for a long time, as long as a human being, almost 70, 80 years.
So about 15 or 16 kilometers away, there are a huge number of elephants living, about 150 or 200 elephants.
Yeah.
And I know that that's in Amir. I see them every day. And I know that you visited the elephant village there. Can you give us a feel for how the elephants live their lives now?
Of course, the space is very open. And I have seen them in a Mahout's home. So there is a cultural connection as well. But obviously, Mahout Mohalla was getting too congested for them. So government of Rajasthan, perhaps we are the only state as such to have an elephant village of that kind, where the Mahout family is also being made to live with them. And they are together. You know, it's not in isolation. And it's that bond that is a must, because like for camel keepers and camels, it has to be that cultural connect that has to be there. So for me, elephant village is a good thing that is happening. And I'm sure that for them to move around to Amer would be easier. And they are here, so we must celebrate and we must give them the best of our lives, whatever we can extend to them.
What do you think the future holds for elephants now?
Well, the ones which are already with us, domesticated ones, we must look after them. We must have that connectivity. I would not say don't use them, because that economic relationships and the cultural relationship of the elephant and the mahout and the cultural context, that is very important for them to deal with. And the future is look after them. They will be there, enjoy that whole connect. Just don't see them in the zoo or the wildlife. You will see them in the wildlife, but the fast perishing community is of mahouts. You will see the elephants, but the mahouts will perish.
So we've got, I think I'm going to ask you one more question before we open it up to the audience for some questions for you, Tripti. Do you think you could let us into a secret? Do you have another elephant project lined up, or have you...
I may have elephantine projects. I may have cultural dreams to accomplish. For elephant, I would be very happy if they create a museum. Like you have howdas, the elephant seats, how beautifully carved, are on display in the Mehrangarh Fort Museum. And you have Ankush somewhere. You have the manuscript with these guys, a handwritten manuscript. So it would be interesting to, an elephant is so well illustrated in miniature paintings. My friend Catherine will endorse that. There are so many illustrations that we can create a beautiful elephant dream museum in the elephant village. I think that could be in their heads, because Jaipur needs museums, and museums should be always thematic. And you can tell the whole story around elephants like my book does.
I think that's a lovely idea. Let's go to the audience now and see if there are any questions. And there's a gentleman in the front row. And then the gentleman about 6 rows back.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Sarthak. Actually, first of all, thank you for covering such an important topic. I think we see elephants on our daily lives, but we don't appreciate their significance. They're one of the most intelligent and most emotionally conscious beings on earth. Ma'am, my question is this. In India's context, it is often said that our ethos and our culture play a very important role in wildlife conservation that has played over centuries and millennia. Do you find a similar role in elephants conservation also, and especially in a time when we are seeing more and more of man and animal conflict, especially in Deccan and other farm areas? Do you think somehow this culture and ethos can find a way out so that both of us can coexist, especially the farmer communities? Thank you.
Thank you.
I am not one versus another. And cultural ethos, if supposing I saw Gaj Puja in Kerala, they did the Pratyaksh Gaj Darshanam Yagya. And it was a full puja. How, you see, they are already out. The ones who are out of the jungle, nobody is saying bring them out of their context. But if they come out and we can celebrate their being with us and not a beast of burden, that how will you keep them now that they have come out? And what will you do? So if they are out and you can rehabilitate them, fine. But cultural ethos, you see, I have another word for it, ethnocide. There is a cultural killing as well. Culture is killed by the minute. Each time that you click on your WhatsApp or whatever, or the Facebook, you are losing out on your traditions. I'm not saying you live peacefully. It didn't mean, when they really worship, it didn't mean that they tortured. Now the whole thing is this, Kautilya says to the king, look after the elephant. His whole stable should be east facing. There should be sun coming in the area, and they should be kept very well. So the role of the king is replaced by the government. So government has to be providing for them, and mahout cannot just be merely a driver. So if the driver is somebody else, the owner is somebody else, it will be just a car being mistreated by your driver.
It's getting quite hot up here. A lot of passion coming off Tripti. There's a gentleman with a question for you there.
Yes, thank you. This is my first trip to India, but I've spent a lot of time in Thailand and many things with elephants. And in Thailand, they have tourist attractions where elephants can be ridden, they put on shows, they even paint. Some people feel that's cruel to the elephants. Others feel it's economically beneficial. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that kind of commercial tourism using elephants.
Well, I am one advocate of tourism as a preserver, not as a destroyer. So when I came into creating the Elephant Festival, the elephants were already part of the princely estate. The princely estates had merged. And what would the poor mouse do with this elephant? He could not be sent back into the jungle. So idea is you use them, you give them all the comfort as well. Because kings used them, the whole cruelty was not discussed. But today, that way when you keep a dog, however well you keep him, he's not meant to be on a leash even when you take him for a walk. That way nobody should keep any animal anywhere. Why an aquarium? Why a horse stable? I am not saying be cruel, but the ones which were out of the princely estates, just like you maintain the forts and the palaces. For me, this is the living animal. How do you leave him alone? And the Mahawats. So you find them a possibility, but if they are cruel, you deal with them. You don't let them be cruel. I always ask the Mahawats, are you good to them or not? And I see for it. But I would also say, don't have a distant perception. There is a reality in India. It's like discussing poverty and in a 5-star hotel, discussing Mahawats in an alien concept. But these elephants were as much a part of heritage after the merger of the states when we also got the ruins of the forts.
It's certainly a controversial area, this, and I think Tripti gave a really good answer there, which covered all the bases. We've got time for one last question. The gentleman in a white jacket on the front row. Microphone is coming to you. Here it comes. Over to you.
Hello, yeah. Ma'am, there are elephant orphanages I've seen in Sri Lanka, in Kandy. Are there elephant orphanages in India too?
Elephant what? Sorry.
Orphanages.
Orphanage is not there because you see Sri Lanka has the wildlife sanctuaries and the orphaned elephant can get out of his herd. You know, he can stray. But we don't have a wildlife sanctuary next to us. It's quite interesting that you think of an elephant ride or an elephant inseparable from Jaipur. While we never had any location near us, our elephants came from Assam, Bihar, like that. So orphanage is not there, but the elephant village is there, and it can be looked after if in case an elephant is in distress.
Tripti, thank you. That was meant to be the last question, but there's a lady on the front row who's desperate to ask a question, and as she's my wife, I don't think I can deny her. So
Oh, well, I have to take his care. Please ask.
That was absolutely fascinating, Tripti. They say that elephant has a very long memory, it never forgets. Is that really true?
Yes, it is true, because you have also, probably you can come across a story where when the Mahout was not good to him, a year of separation, and somewhere in a crowd of a festival crowd, he located that Mahout, and he beat the hell out of him. Because his memory is very strong, he can remember. And that is the reason that all elephants which are domesticated or which are with the Mahouts, they all have a name. You can't call Rekha and Ram Pratap, I don't mean Diggy, but if there was an elephant called Ram Pratap, it would not be that you call him, you call Rekha and Ram Pratap would come. No, every elephant remembers his name.
thank you very much. We've covered a lot of ground, and we've got 10 seconds left. So I'd like you all to give Tripti a really big round of applause for telling us so much today.
And to add to a very interesting memory today, I got a call from one of the designer friends who is designing for UNESCO. And he is doing some wildlife funds project in Delhi. And he says, I got your book and it is very useful for me because I'm referring to that book. So very good if wildlife refers to culture and culture refers to wildlife. Where is the problem?
I'm sensing we could carry on talking for a long time, but the clock has got gone down for zero. The book is available, signing, and you can meet Tripti and talk to her and get a bit more of her passion from her
And don't
on the
forget,
sidelines.
a cultural book on elephants was a wild card entry in this festival because I got the last minute call and I said, still I will take it.
That's it. Thank you very much indeed, Tripti.
Thanks a lot, and thanks to the festival that I could present my book here to all of you. And thanks for being here. is the last word. Last word is full stop. Remember that.